Hey guys, hope you're doing well. I want to bring you a particular topic today that I came across. I read it through it twice actually this morning, and it's the idea of don't compare yourself to the bottom of the bucket. And the piece that I was reading, the guy, and I resonated with it because I was there when I was a kid, but going through school and you not aiming for A's, you're just aiming to get by. Just enough marks that to keep the teachers off your back. You're not, going to be picked out. You're not going to be the one called dumb. You kind of keep your parents off your back. And the Anthony talks about in that scenario, which I resonated with because I feel like that was my school, my schooling, is your focus is all on, well, I'm not the bottom. And so your focus is always looking down rather than looking up. Well, where could I be? Now, totally, a lot of the guys we work with, school is not for them. And so maybe it's not the greatest example there, but this idea of, because I talk to a lot of builders, and there's a big difference between those that come to us talking about, I want to be the best. I really want to work towards this. I want to have the best marketing in place. I want to be the most well-known in my area. I want to be like, and they might use an example of, like Coca-Cola. They're so well known. Everyone knows about them. Imagine being that. That's a perspective of looking up, going, imagine if I was that well known in my area. Maybe just the suburb or surrounding suburbs that I want to work in, but imagine that as opposed to the other guys that I'll have chats with where they'll say to me, I'm not like a project home builder, or I'm not like, those dodgy builders out there. And so the whole attention is on below them. They're looking down. And so what your focus then, what ends up happening, and some of you may have experienced this, is that you go, as long as I'm just not there, as long as I'm a little bit better, I'm therefore better. But I would encourage you to look up and go, well, how far are you from where you ultimately would like to be? Now, there are some guys that just haven't spent the time to think about that, or just don't have maybe the desire for that. And so it's definitely something I would encourage you guys to think about, or it's worth considering, is are you comparing yourself to the bottom of the bucket, or are you comparing yourself with where you could be, should be, and where among the likes of the greats, guys that maybe you admire, maybe in industry or in different industries, different businesses. Often people talk about Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or, guys like that. They set a pretty high bar. Those guys definitely have even more incredible goals. If you think of Steve Jobs, thinking his goal was, I want to leave a dent in the universe. Elon Musk wants to put a living population on Mars. So it's pretty big goals, but that's a great example of someone, on the extreme end looking up. And so that relates back to topics that you definitely would have heard me talk about on these mini videos, or definitely on our podcast. And that idea of is, who are you hanging around? It's very hard if you're hanging around just average Joes that are looking down to be talking about goals, be talking about aiming up. When you hang around those guys, they can sometimes shut it down, or it just isn't a topic that they really get discuss. Try and get around great guys, and I'm not saying abandon your friends or your friendship circles, but it might be around join a mastermind, join a group of guys, maybe in industry or other businesses that want to be the best, that want to keep moving ahead, moving up. You will naturally and organically, just hanging around that, see a big shift in where you're going. So that's the message for the day. Don't compare yourself to the bottom of the bucket. I might read you just one little excerpt on that topic, but a little bit different. It just says here, a great way to formulate original ideas is to sit down and write every morning. Force yourself to gather information, synthesize it, produce an opinion on the topic. The output is not nearly as important as the process of thinking and writing. Why I want to add that at the end of this video is because it's really important in the hecticness of life to be able to have clarity of thought. And that practice there is something that I've come across. When I come across guys that are at that great level, they give time to think and ponder and review. Now, maybe you're not writing it down, but at least after something's happened, after a project, after a day, after an encounter, sit and just think it through. Some guys might, overanalyze things, but that's where I would say it's definitely worth writing it down. But just another key little point when it comes to being great and moving on upwards towards your goals. A great little practice to put in there. Anyways, that's all from me, guys. Have a fantastic day.